Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. This is a very fun and special episode today. Soph might be joining us partway through. I think she's at an OB appointment right now, checking on baby Phylicia. But I am joined again by my dear, sweet friend and sister, Phylicia Masonheimer. She was on our podcast just over a year ago. We released it the week before Christmas last year, an episode called My Faith is Not for a Baby. It was kind of inspired by an email with that same subject line. And I would encourage you highly to, if you haven't listened to that episode, to put a pin in this one, go look for December 24th-ish, 20th of 2024 and listen to that episode before you listen to this one, because I think not just in the topics we cover, but as a prelude of what we're going to cover today, you'll be very encouraged by the interview there. But Phylicia is somebody that I've looked up to for a really long time, and she is kind of the spearhead, along with our Heavenly Father, of a ministry called Every Woman a Theologian, and really equips women to understand what they believe and to be able to explain it graciously and live it boldly. It's just a privilege to be recipient of some of the work that she does, working through Bible studies and things. So we're so thankful to have you back, Phylicia. Thanks for spending some time with me. And what we would like to, spoiler alert, talk about is Phylicia's journey to conceiving a sweet baby after secondary infertility and multiple pregnancy loss. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, Caitlin. It's so surreal to get to be here about a year later and to talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's so fun. So maybe we could do just kind of like a quick recap of your fertility history leading up to maybe you guys starting to try again for baby number 4.
Yes. So I cover a little of this in the first, part 1 of this episode from last year, that when we recorded that episode, we had been in about 4 years of secondary infertility. I did not realize it at the time that we were in, the 4th year. When I was in the midst of it at the beginning, I didn't know that I had these concerning symptoms, but it wasn't until I started miscarrying that I realized that, oh, this is really concerning. So in 2024, we had 2 back-to-back miscarriages. And I say back-to-back because they're 6 months apart, but they were within a year. And then went on to utilize a local fertility clinic to try letrozole medication to kind of force ovulation and to try and see if that would help with what was going on. So we went through 3 or 4 rounds with the fertility clinic. And then in December of 2024, we decided that we were done. We weren't going to pursue IUI or IVF. And so we just thought, this is probably the end of the road for us. But I then met you, Caitlin, when we did that episode together and began working with you that month to at least try to see, is there something we missed in all of this, all of the stuff that I had done with the fertility clinic. And you were amazingly helpful. And honestly, I know you didn't have me on the podcast to brag about you, but I will anyway, that I learned more in the assessment call that I did with you than I did in 4 months with the fertility clinic, because I think the clinic that I was working with, I live in a rural area, so we only had one, but they just were so used to pushing people directly to IVF that there wasn't a lot of engagement in the earlier stages of infertility, or like what's the real underlying reason and why this continually happens. And even some of my labs, when you went over them, just kind of explaining, well, this is why you got the result that you got, because the fertility clinic was beginning to tell me, like, it looks like maybe you're menopausal, like maybe you're headed that direction, and I'm only 35. So it was just, very helpful to have your voice and expertise to help that month as we were looking towards the next year. And my only goal at that point was like, let's at least try to help my body be in a healthy state, because I'm not guaranteed a baby, which was the whole point of that last episode. I'm not guaranteed a baby. In this fallen, broken world, we are participating in that brokenness, sadly. And sometimes that brokenness means that we don't get the answer that we're praying for. And so I just held it very loosely and worked with you on the next steps. But we had a huge surprise in January. So I'll pause there in case there's anything else you wanted to talk about before we move into that part of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe more a reflection. And then I think I do have one question. But what I often see with clients that come, and sometimes it's working with a fertility clinic, sometimes just working with their normal OBGYN, and they'll do a few stimulated cycles with something like letrozole and Clomid before they kind of hand them off to a fertility clinic. Contextualizing lab work is probably an undervalued skill. Contextualizing hormonal lab work within your cycle, where you are within your cycle, so you can understand something where like maybe that does look like a menopausal level, but not at this point in your cycle. I mean, it's normal in this point in your cycle. So sometimes I hear clients hear messages like, well, you're not making enough progesterone, you have low progesterone. And then we go look at their cycle and we realize, well, they pulled the lab the day you ovulated. Your progesterone was going to be really low on that day. You just ovulated later than they thought you did or expected you did. So sometimes just just calming down, taking enough time, having data. So understanding like when your period came after this lab work or when it came before the lab work, having other data if you're tracking your basal body temperature. Sometimes just having a little bit more data and time to sit down and really look at it thoroughly can be the difference between kind of finding that root of the issue. And I actually have to say, when I read your intake form, and because I just have such a love and respect for you, I was like, oh, I really don't want to mess this up. I really hope I can help her, and it was an offer to help without really knowing what we would find. And I don't know if you're comfortable sharing this, so we can cut this out if you want, but there were like autoimmune things going on and interesting reactions to your own hormones or hormones we give you. And I remember thinking like, okay, this is a really complicated case. Like, and I do this before every appointment, but I especially did this before yours. I was like, God, give me your wisdom, because you know what's going on in her body. You know what's going on in her husband's body. You know what's going on in the ovary and which egg becomes the dominant follicle. And you can help us see the things that even the lab work can't show. And so I appreciate you kind of saying that was really helpful. But I think that one of the things that can really do is put you back in the driver's seat, because you actually are informed on what's going on. And you're not just reliant on the clinic saying this is the next step, because by and large, the reason why they don't necessarily spend the time going through or even sometimes acquiring as thorough of an analysis is because it doesn't change their protocol oftentimes. And so they're going to do it. Why spend the money or time? We're going to do this next thing anyway.
Right. Yeah, that was my experience too, which my doctor she was older. She'd been doing, fertility work for 30 plus years. So she'd seen so many patients, and she's kind of at the end of her road. Like, she's on the verge of retirement, or I think she retired this year. So I understand now, knowing that, some of why she responded the way she did with me. But, like, for instance, when I asked her, is there anything I can do lifestyle wise to support the drugs that I'm on? She's like, no. I don't know. She said, I don't know. And I just thought, I thought, wait a minute. No, you're the expert here. You're a fertility doctor for 30 plus years. Like, there must be something I can do, like, lifestyle wise, to help. You're not going to tell me to, like, stop drinking if I'm drinking, or, like,
Or
stop
caffeine,
smoking, or any
yeah.
of that. No, she didn't. She was just like, and I talked to a friend of mine who's a doctor. He's like, as a doctor, so often you see these people who, from the outside, they look, healthy, and, their weight or their habits or whatever. And so you just assume, well, there's nothing more I can tell them. But deep down, there's still so much more going on. And so I just felt like nobody's listening to me. Like, nobody's willing to look deeper than, like, the outside of me, when clearly I not only can't keep a baby, I can't get pregnant in between, losing these babies. So there's something off. So, I just felt like you were willing to really investigate, and then the partners that you partner with to get to the root of what was going on. And as we're going to talk about in a minute, it really did. Even the little that I did with you, I think helped set up my body to be able to carry to term, which was, a that pregnancy was a very nerve-wracking pregnancy. So, it's there's a lot of emotions involved, and I know too, professionals do the best they can, but sometimes it's like, I'm not just another report, and I think maybe a lot of women in our situation, it can feel like, well, I'm just another report, another file that you're looking at and checking a box, when it isn't that simple.
Yeah, it isn't that simple. So how shall we proceed? I remember reading a really beautiful email that you wrote, reflecting kind of on the sadness of the emptiness of your womb, as you were, I don't know, were you at some concert? You had like some candles. I remember just being really inspired by another email you wrote about some sense of, like, I'm sad and heartbroken in this season where it should be like joy. And
I'll have to look back. I would have to look back and see, because what's so weird for me is that, so, not to get ahead of ourselves, but, like, in December, I started working with you. I was done with the fertility clinic, but one of the things that I was like, I'm done with, is I'm not taking any more pregnancy tests, and I'm not taking any more ovulation tests unless I have to for a doctor, because it was driving me crazy. I was like living in this 2-week cycle of like, well, here we go. Another 2 weeks, I wait and I try. And then another 2 weeks, we wait and we try. And it was exhausting. And so I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And so that was during the Christmas season that was happening. And then we found out we were pregnant in January.
Early January, yeah.
Early January.
So let's flip forward. There were some things that happened right around the window of you finding out you were pregnant.
So we found out that we were pregnant in January 6th. So barely into the new year.
Which is my birthday, by the way. How
Are you serious? Oh my gosh. I did not know that. Oh my word. So January 6th, we find out. And this was just very shocking to me, because I'd been doing Caitlin's protocol for, I don't know, about a month at that point, maybe. And I was really shocked, because we had gone through all these rounds of the fertility clinic and had not gotten pregnant. And our second loss was in June of the previous year. So now we're 6 months. First miscarriage was January 2024, second June 2024. Now it's January 2025. Find out we're pregnant. And it was a very emotional thing. it was especially for my husband. There was a lot of fear of losing another one, and really like that feeling of how do I hope or how do I get excited when I feel like I actually have to prepare myself for the
I'm like
worst.
holding my breath, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were in that kind of very, I mean, I don't have any other word to use, but maybe kind of cold. Like we were just kind of like, well, see what happens kind of attitude. Pray that they live, but I prayed for the last one, like that kind of, not bitter. I was not bitter. I was not resentful, but I was definitely like very, I don't know how to feel, and very open with the Lord about that. Like, I don't know how to feel about this, but I'm thankful for this life. And I just pray that you would preserve this baby's life. And because I was working with you, we were able to kind of start looking into, supportive measures for helping preserve the life of the baby. I'm allergic to progesterone, so I can't take progesterone shots. And that was one of our biggest concerns, is like, what can we do to support the pregnancy? So that's what we were thinking about in January. And around that time, you sent me an email where you mentioned that you had been praying for my case, which is such a blessing, like to work with someone who is praying for your case. Like, how beautiful is that? But specifically, you had been praying the story of the Shunammite woman, who is a very, very small story in the Old Testament, in the Bible, that a lot of people aren't aware of, and I had completely forgotten about. But she's a woman who hosted, I think, Elisha, the prophet Elisha, whenever he would travel by, and was very hospitable, but had never been able to have a child. And she longed for a child, but had never been able to have one. So he prays for her, and she has a child. She has this baby. But what's wild is that you had been praying this over this, non-existent pregnancy that had not yet happened. But 6 months earlier, we had a friend, a family in ministry, friend of mine, her name is Mo Isam Aiken, visit us and stay with us with their family. And before they left, they prayed over us. And the story that she prayed was the Shunammite woman. And so this was the first time I had even thought of this story. And then 6 months later, that's what Caitlin is praying over our case, this same story. And so that impacted me, where I thought, wow, how amazing that two different women who don't know each other at all, this is what the Holy Spirit led them to pray. But still, I was feeling that very, uncertain, nervous, distant kind of feeling towards the pregnancy, because I just didn't know how to emotionally process it. But then several weeks later, so we made it to week 9, which was further than both of the previous babies losses. A woman reached out to me on Instagram. And so I have a ministry account on Instagram, and a lot of different readers from around the world. This woman messages me, and she says, "Hi, Phylicia. I'm really nervous to send this because I know that you've had miscarriages, and I really don't want to hurt you. But I prayed about it, and I sense that the Lord wants me to share this with you. I had a dream that you were pregnant with your 4th baby in this, living world. And you and your husband went to the doctor to find out if the baby would live or die." So this is all happening in her dream. She's seeing this in her dream. She said in the dream, she started praying for that baby, and praying that the baby would live. And in short, the baby lives. And she said the baby was a girl, and the Lord gave her a specific name in the dream for this baby. The name meant olive tree or olive branch, which represents new life and restoration and establishment, and just like really beautiful meanings in the Bible that the olive tree represents. And she said, "I don't know why I'm supposed to send this to you. I just feel like I should. And so I'm being faithful. I really hope this doesn't hurt you." So she's just very sensitive in her posture. But she had no idea that we actually were already pregnant when she sent this. And it just blew my mind, because I thought, here we are in this place of just feeling so distant and like disconnected and afraid and like holding loosely. And it felt like, I don't know how to describe it, just like the Lord gave this dream to her because she had the faith for it.
Mhm.
Where if I think he had given it to me, I don't think that I would have believed it. I think I would have been like second guessing and being like, is it really, is it really the Lord? Is it just me what I want? Is it just my brain? Is it just my mind? But he gave it to this woman who had the faith for it. And then she shared it with me. And so I was able to share with her, well, we are actually pregnant and I would love if you would pray, but we didn't know if it was a girl or not. So I was like, well, maybe this dream is wrong. I don't know. But then we got an ultrasound at 20 weeks and she was a girl.
It was
She was a girl. And that, I'll pause there in case you have anything you want me to dive deeper into, but this idea of like the Lord speaking in dreams, I think a lot of people are hesitant with that kind of thing. We see it in scripture, but we're really hesitant when it happens in real life. And I get that. Some people abuse it. But when you see someone who is faithful, who is humble, who is sensitive, sharing something like that with you, I think it's important to take it seriously and to bring it to the Lord. And so what she shared was a huge encouragement to us and something to hold on to, that, this baby may actually live.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. I mean, hey, Food Freedom Fertility listeners, we're taking a break from this episode to talk about our sponsor, Temp Drop. One of the reasons why Sophia and I love this brand so much is that it's an all-in-one solution and it's so easy to use. You wear this Temp Drop sensor on your upper arm during your sleep, and then in the morning when it's convenient for you, you sync it to their charting app. If you've been tracking your fertile signs for a while now, you'll know that this means freedom. And isn't this the Food Freedom Fertility Podcast? In order to accurately track your basal body temperature, you need to wake up at the same time every morning. But what if you're a shift worker or your schedule differs and sometimes you sleep in and sometimes you don't? That's one of the reasons why I love this tech so much. TempDrop uses the latest scientific knowledge to bring you an accurate method of cycle tracking and identifying your fertile window. TempDrop's sensor continuously monitors your basal body temperature while you're sleeping. And then in the morning, you open the app on your phone and you sync the data. And what that means is that it's not transmitting information from this sensor next to your arm to your phone all night long. And I don't know about you, that gives me a lot of peace of mind that I'm not exposing myself to radiation all the hours that I'm sleeping. Because this tech makes tracking your temperature so much more accessible and really takes a lot of the brain power out of it. You don't even need to charge it every day. This is one of the reasons why I personally use TempDrop to track my own basal body temperature. Make sure when you go to tempdrop.com that you use our discount code exclusive to our Food Freedom Fertility listeners. That code is FFF15, or you can head to the link in our show notes of all these episodes. Click on that link and you'll get 15% off today. We are taking a break from the episode, and I want to chat with you a little bit about Fertility Cloud. If you've been told you need help ovulating, or you have PCOS and you're trying to figure out your next fertility step, I want to tell you about Fertility Cloud. They make fertility care simple, transparent, and affordable, especially when it comes to ovulation stimulation and ovulation induction treatments. Instead of waiting for months to see a fertility specialist or getting hit with surprise bills, Fertility Cloud lists every price clearly right on their website. You'll see exactly what you're getting into and exactly what it costs. No hidden clinic fees, no surprise invoices later. For my PCOS clients, this is huge. Their ovulation stimulation program can help jumpstart ovulation safely at home with physician guidance and medications delivered directly to you. You can do it all virtually, no driving to clinics or sitting in waiting rooms, and you can often even get appointments same day. If you're wondering, how do we do ultrasounds or what about lab draws? Don't worry, their concierge service helps determine where you can do that locally to you and coordinates with you on your behalf. It's just amazing. And here's the best part. If you're ready to take that next step, you can click the link in our show notes and get $50 off your first appointment. That means you get right in front of a fertility specialist for $115. That first visit gets you matched with a fertility doctor who actually understands your needs, and you'll walk away with a clear plan for your next cycle. So head to the link in our show notes, book your appointment, save $50 on your first Fertility Cloud visit, because fertility care should be transparent, affordable, and built for you. All right, so Sophia's here. She just joined us.
Hello.
Came back from a doctor's appointment, and we're just gonna keep moving forward. So, Phylicia, I want to dig in a little bit more to this idea of dreams, because it is a different thing culturally, I think, in our kind of Western mind, 2,000 years forward from what happened in Acts 3 when they quote, "Your sons and daughters will dream dreams." And what do we do with dreams? What does scripture say about dreams? How can we embrace this? You mentioned a couple things about somebody being faithful and humble. But I don't know. People tell you a lot of crazy things these days. And how do you weigh out what to trust? Or if you feel like you had a dream and you might be significant in someone's life?
Yeah. Well, I think when women are pregnant, you might have noticed, like, and maybe you've had this experience, but a lot of women actually have dreams about their babies, like about the gender of their baby, or, twins. You'll hear these stories all the time about women having dreams themselves about babies in the womb. And sometimes it'll be someone else who has a dream. And we do want to be very careful with this, because I think God, when he uses dreams in the Bible, it's not like all the time. Like, it's very specific situations where he will give a dream, and then oftentimes he will have someone else interpret the dream for that person. And the person who interprets it is a very grounded, stable person. So one of the things I look for with people who are talking about their dreams with me is their character. Like, is this person, does their character lend to like emotionalism? And, are they a trustworthy person? Are they a stable person?
Yeah, do they have a prophetic word for every person at the gas station? Or is
Exact.
this
Thank you,
yeah.
Soph. Yes, you're describing what I'm kind of beating around the bush here. Because I think that women in scripture, or I don't think that, this is in scripture, that the one of the primary giftings of women is prophetic. So the articulation of God's word in unique ways for the encouragement of other people. And that includes dreams. People in other countries outside of the US tend to be much more open to this than people in the US. We try to have a scientific explanation for everything. So we don't have a framework for dreams. And then, of course, there are people who do abuse that practice as well. So I was a little like cautious, but I also wanted to be open that the Lord could use this woman. And she was so humble and so sensitive, like I said, in the way she brought it to me. She wasn't like, I have a word for you and you must accept it. She was like, I think this is what the Lord gave me. I understand that sharing about this could be hard to hear, but I sense that the Lord wants me to be obedient and to share it with you. And because of her obedience, I was encouraged. I was blessed. And I didn't take that as like, oh, this is a guarantee that for sure, this baby will live. I couldn't do that. I don't know the future, right?
Yeah.
But it did encourage me to pray more, because I realized I was starting to get a little like apathetic, almost like, well, what's going to happen is going to happen. Like it doesn't matter. Like why pray? Because, I lost the other ones, almost this faithless kind of attitude. And I think that's why the Lord had her share this when he did, because it made me realize, no, I don't know if I will keep this baby, but I do know that I should be praying that I do, because this is a spiritual reality too, physical and spiritual. We don't fully understand in this earth, but that doesn't mean that we don't ask. And so she just encouraged me to do that by sharing that with me.
You also mentioned that, like, distinctly when you found out you were pregnant, your husband was really struggling with it initially. Did he have the same sense of comfort and kind of encouragement, or even maybe a little bit of reproof about, like, I should be praying about this more? Or how did that shift for him throughout the early pregnancy or the entire pregnancy?
I think for him, there was some fear, and I don't think he'd mind me sharing this, but there was some fear throughout the entire pregnancy. I was technically a higher risk pregnancy at that point because of the previous losses. And I'm not very good at resting. And so throughout the pregnancy, there was a lot of like he had some anxiety over that and over me, walking too much or carrying things, because of what happened. But I do think that the dream helped us both. And the fact that he was mentioned in the dream, it wasn't like, oh, you went and asked the doctor if your baby would live. It was like, no, you and your husband together went in the dream to ask if their baby would live. And I think the longer we went on in praying into that, the more it brought us together. It brought our whole family together, because we were asking God for a miracle. And there were other people in the church who were praying the same. And so our whole family was involved in that. And I think that is probably one of the most special things that came out of the experience.
I think a lot of times people turn to scripture and see a God of miracles, like a Sarah getting pregnant in her old age, or a miraculous conception with Mary, or Hannah. We don't often think of the Shunammite woman who struggled to conceive, but in my thought and my prayer over you for that Shunammite woman, it wasn't even the overcoming of infertility. It was her faith in saying, "It is well," when her son was basically dead. She went running for the prophet, and he said, "What's wrong with the Shunammite woman? Go ask what she needs." She says, "It is well," but she shows up to say, "You need to come. My child's dead."
Yeah.
That faith, "it is well," despite whatever circumstance is telling you right in that moment, that's really was my heart for you in that. And I love seeing the miracles. I love seeing the answered prayer. But one thing you understand so uniquely now, having lived these experiences, is how delicate that woman suffering from infertility, whether it's primary or secondary, whether you've had children before or not, how delicate the needs and the heart asks and the questions feel. As you've described, just holding it so loosely, the pregnancy itself. That record, it still really astounds me. You don't hear much about her. She was a Gentile. I mean, like, it's really, I think, remarkable that God shared that in the scriptures for us, and uniquely comforting.
Yeah. I think what's also unique about this story is that, so she gets the miracle of a baby, the infertility, but she has this baby. He grows up, and years later, he suddenly gets sick and dies. And the second miracle is his being raised to life in that story, and which is what you're referring to in the It As Well phrasing. And I think that it just goes to show that, like, and I don't mean this in like a depressing way, but that just because one miracle happened doesn't mean we won't ever go through hardship again. You know, that like God was with her through this, through the infertility, the miracle birth, and then through this devastating loss, and then a redemption of that loss. So like it's showing us like over this span of time that we get this picture of God's faithfulness to her in a variety of circumstances, and prayers both being answered and not being answered, you know, because I'm sure she prayed as she's holding her child, you know,
Oh,
don't let
yeah.
him die, and he dies. You know, it's things that we, again, like if I were her, I'd think, well, why did it have to be like this? Like, why couldn't he just have prevented it, you know? And those are things I
Yeah,
don't think we
that's
get answers to.
people all the time with that kind of thing, you know, like, wouldn't the miracle have been not getting cancer in the first place? Wouldn't
Right.
the miracle have been never having infertility? And yeah, we don't get answers. Sometimes we do, you know, like God can reveal certain things to us as it is of his good pleasure and as it is of benefit for us. But we're not entitled to that always. And that is a common, I don't want to say doubt or make it seem like a, you know, unbelief or something like that, but whatever you want to call it, that's like such a common idea
Yeah.
about, you know, or why is it that Phylicia is holding her baby and so many aren't?
Right.
Why is it that
Yeah.
I have I've only had one loss and Phylicia had so many? Why are these things the way that they are? And I don't know, I hear that a lot from people that are both faithful and have Jesus as their Lord, and people that use that as a weapon as to why not to have Jesus as their Lord.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. That's the tension. And what I
Mm.
think, you know, after I had my son, I had severe postpartum anxiety, and I had a healthy baby in my arms, and I was like broken up over how other women
Caitlin and I
didn't.
can so relate to this.
Like
Yeah.
completely, I was like, it's not fair. It's not fair. Well, then not knowing that in the next few years I would then start losing babies, and then I
Mhm.
have a baby, and I'm, you know, almost back in the same situation. And all I can say is I can't give you an answer of why some babies live and some babies die. I cannot. Other than that, it is a broken world. It is a broken world, and God knows things that we do not know. I also know that Josiah and Asher's deaths, they impacted thousands of women around the world. And
Mhm.
would I say, like, was that worth it? Was it worth it for me to go through those things? Like, I don't know that I would say that. Like, those were
I don't know
actually,
that God would say
I don't
that.
think he would either.
A
Yeah.
God that has no lack, who has no
Right.
need from humans, is making two babies die. That just does not seem fitting with the character at all. But
Right.
anyway, go on.
Right. And I would say he didn't cause it. I would say it was a
Amen.
brokenness of the
I
world,
fully
that
agree with you on that.
participation in the fallness of the world. However, God's redemption of it was the thousands of women who were brought towards him through sharing that story, the privilege I had of sharing that story. And now on the other side of that, I continue to get to share God's goodness in a new way, a different way, through our baby's life. And also knowing, like, as this past year that I was pregnant with her, because I because I thought I would not be pregnant, I committed to like 13 different events. I do not travel that much, but in December of 2024 I was like, well, this season has ended and I am moving forward to be a spiritual mother, and so I will commit to 13 events. No, I was pregnant and nauseous and heartburn out
Struggling.
my ears the entire time. It was, you know what? But it, like, the Lord knew. But during those events, I was meeting women who were saying, I've and I will get emotional talking about this. Like, I'm praying over your
too.
baby. I'm praying over this child's life. She had so many people praying for her, praying that she would live. And I don't think that the number of prayers, like, it's not like God's like, oh, here's a little jar of prayers and we got more for this
Yeah, like
one.
a tally. Yeah.
That's not how it works, because you can, I had people praying for my other losses, and they're with the Lord. But what it did show me was just how the church and God's women, how they cared so much for this little life that they'd never seen and may never see in person. But the people that I met this older couple who came up to me at an event. They were in their 50s. And the husband and wife together said, we lost multiple babies between our older set of kids and our daughter, their youngest daughter. And I think what impacted me the most in them, they stand out to me so much because it was the husband who was talking. And he said, you will never, ever forget those babies that you lost. He said, I never forget them. But our daughter is the joy of our life. And God gave her to us to heal some of what we lost with those children. And I don't think I've ever seen a man in his old age talk about miscarriage ever.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something so profound in how he talked about it. He said, through this, it was heartbreaking, but the Lord healed a part of us both through those losses and also in the life of our little daughter, who's now like 22 years old. And it just seeing the faithfulness of these people around the nation, in all these different states and all these cities that nobody will ever know, but they were praying for a baby they would never see. And it just made me think, every little prayer that you say for somebody who's walking through infertility or has miscarried, it actually touches them. It actually reaches them. Like, it actually strengthens them. God does that miraculously by his Spirit. And we should not ever diminish that even if we don't see what we would call a miracle in this life, that still your prayers are accomplishing something that you can't see, and that God uses that, and he uses people sharing their stories, like this older couple who miscarried together years and years and years ago, and nobody probably knew, but their story just impacted me so much when they shared it. So those might be, kind of rabbit trail topics a little bit, but I think that's what was on my mind the most throughout that pregnancy, was like the spiritual support of the church was so powerful, and how much I would want to share that with other women who walk that path.
We're going to take a break from this episode to hear about one of our sponsors. You've probably heard me say this before, but preparing your body for pregnancy is not just about you. It's about both of you. Fertility is truly a team effort, and that's why I love the Fullwell Fertility Trio for Two. Fullwell was founded by a fellow registered dietitian and fertility expert, Ayla Barmer, and this bundle was designed to support both partners in the months leading up to conception. It combines their top-rated prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and a fertility booster supplement that covers things like CoQ10, N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, and organic ashwagandha root extract. The nutrients here support overall egg quality, sperm health, fertility, and even your stress resilience. If your partner's semen analysis looks normal, or if it's suboptimal and we need to improve things, nutrition plays a key role for things like sperm motility, count, and DNA quality. For women, these same nutrients help with ovulation, egg development, and healthy hormone balance, not to mention mitochondrial support, which is a huge piece of how your gametes mature and get ready to be that queen egg or that king sperm that make it to combining to form an embryo. These things are foundational for a strong, healthy pregnancy. I personally love that Fullwell's formulas are third-party tested, they're evidence-based, and made with doses that actually match what the research shows we need. No fluff, no underdosing. So if you're planning to start trying this winter or sometime in 2026, or you've been trying to conceive for a while, it's time to think about starting to nourish your bodies for what's ahead, or take a step up from your current protocol to one that is high quality. Head to fullwellfertility.com and use the code FFF20 for 20% off your order. That's FFF20 at checkout. I'll drop the link in the show notes for this specific fertility trio bundle and for Fullwell, along with this code FFF20. Give yourself and your future family the best foundation with Fullwell's fertility trio for two. Can you describe a little bit about, you mentioned it was a high risk pregnancy. You have mentioned that you are allergic to your own progesterone. Like, what was the pregnancy like? How did it progress for you?
It was the hardest pregnancy I've had. I don't know if that's because I'm older, if it's because of, my body just not being totally healed from everything that it was going through when we did get pregnant. We were pursuing, I forget what shots I was supposed to take because I couldn't take progesterone, but we were pursuing something to help me. I ended up not needing them. So I did not, actually, the shots never arrived in the mail is what happened. And
I think it
I
was going to
was,
be beta HCG. So we were going to give you
yeah,
more pregnancy hormone
that's right.
Mhm.
to
Thank you.
stimulate your own progesterone, because even though you were allergic to your own progesterone, we thought it was safer to do it that way versus
Yes.
adding exogenous progesterone in.
Thank you. Well, so they didn't arrive in the mail. And I don't know if that was probably my mistake. And we ended up not needing them. I mean, she made it on her own. I was pretty sick. I was pretty nauseous, lots of heartburn. She did come out with a lot of hair, which none
I
of my other
know.
babies did. So who knows if
That
that's
wives'
correlated.
tale.
Wives' tale. I paid for it. But lots of swelling. And actually, at the end of the pregnancy, they were on high alert for preeclampsia because my swelling and my blood pressure was so bad.
Starting to climb.
And in the birth, actually, I had a home birth, which I've had 3 of those before, which is why I did it. There was risk of a transfer even during the birth because my blood pressure was getting so high. But in the end, didn't have to do that. So it was more complicated. It was harder. It was definitely more painful. But I think just going through everything we'd been through before, I was just so grateful that she was alive. That a lot of the things, I think, just had a different perspective on it. With my first pregnancy, it was just everything was
New
easy, and I was just, complaining about the heartburn and the this and that and all those, and that's real. It's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But I think I was just had a different perspective this time because of what it took for her to be alive.
I might have missed this in the story since I came in a little late. Did you have any medical or scientific confirmation of her gender, or did you guys just find
Yes.
out for sure once she was born?
We did do an ultrasound. I wanted to know because of the dream at 9 weeks saying that she was a girl. I was like, well,
Yeah.
let's see if this is true.
Yeah, right. I probably would do the same, but it's just wondering if it was like that
Yeah,
moment she was born, if you're like, she was right, or if,
I
and of
know.
course, there always is that because every one of us knows somebody that had the genetic test or the ultrasound or
Right.
whatever that showed a totally different story than what this baby was presenting at birth. And
Yes.
yeah, that's happened. These things are not as accurate as you would think. Especially ultrasound is so dependent on baby's position. My sister's last kid is what I'm thinking of. We had the wrong gender all along. I did like a home finger prick test, which said boy. And I think it's just because she was in proximity to her sons and her husband when
Yes.
she did the at home test. And then at the ultrasound, the baby was like sitting crisscross, like on her own feet. And so there was like where foot stopped and genitals began, there was like no ability to see. And so there you couldn't tell what was going on in there. And then she was born a girl, which was like to the surprise of all of us. So you'd think these
Yes.
things are really accurate, but they often have huge gaps. So
So
it's
true.
just so cool to see that she was the prophecy, through and through.
Yes. Yeah. And it was so sweet because when I did the ultrasound, we were doing a gender reveal shower where we were going to find out, like, be surprised at this
Mhm.
shower. So I had them seal up the gender in an envelope, but I saw her face on the screen and she had this tiny little nose, this little like ski slope nose. And I was like, that's a girl. I know it's a girl. I just know
A
by
little
that
pixie
nose.
nose. Oh,
Little
that's
pixie
so sweet.
nose. And
I am a nose person with babies as well. Like their little
so
profiles,
cute.
their little noses, adorable. That is,
Absolutely the
yeah.
best.
Mhm.
So precious.
So tell me a little bit about, well, did you find out the genders of your other living children?
2 of them. One, we
Okay.
were surprised.
Okay.
And so we thought about doing that, but I knew I wanted an anatomy ultrasound.
Mhm.
With home births, you can actually decide if you want an anatomy
Mhm.
ultrasound or not. And I knew I definitely did. So I
Mhm.
was like, let's just find out. And it'll be exciting for the kids as well,
Yeah.
to find out with us.
So take us through that story because I know that that ties back to the dream in terms of gender and name.
Yes. So, in the dream, if you remember what I shared a little bit ago, it was when I was in my 9th week that this gal messaged me, and she had said, "It's a girl. She will live," and she had a specific name. I had never heard this name before, and I also, had some ideas for names, but again, we were just in that place of feeling like, how invested do we get, and just kind of fearful, um, but trying to just hold on to hope and really keep our faith in the Lord and His will and His leading, and that He would sustain us either way. So we had the gender reveal and cut a cake, and the kids had the little like confetti blaster things, and um find out it is a girl. And the name that was in the dream that Josh and I really prayed about and thought, if this was in the dream and the Lord gave this to this woman and it encouraged us this much, we feel like we really should use this name. And the name was Olivera. I had never heard that before. I'd heard Olive, I'd heard Olivia. I'd
Yeah,
never
yeah.
heard Olivera. I've heard it as a last name, like an Italian last name, and it means olive branch. And the
Truth?
specific example that she used from the Bible, because there's a lot of examples of olive trees in the Bible, was the story of Noah.
Hmm.
When Noah, the ark lands and he sends out a dove, and the dove goes out and comes back. It goes out again, and when it comes back the second time, it has an olive branch in its beak. And then when he releases it the last time, it leaves and doesn't come back because it's found life in a barren land. So
Mhm.
again, like, it's an emotional thing for me because she had no idea, um, when she shared this, that this would be the third pregnancy. This was our
Mhm.
third pregnancy. This was the first 2. There was no life in the barren land, and this time there was. And so, we just thought this name was basically given to us by the Lord through this sweet woman, but we had to choose a middle name. And so we we really liked both Faith and Hope because they seem to reflect our story. And so we asked our kids, which would you prefer? Would you prefer Faith or would you prefer Hope? And they chose Hope. So
Was it
her
unanimous among them or
it
did they
was,
have to
yep.
really think about it?
No, for some reason they all three, they were just adamant that it should be Hope. So her name is Olivera Hope. We call her Vera. And what's really wild about this is I actually liked the name Faith better than Hope, but they chose Hope, so I said okay. And I said we'll call her Vera for short. And then a friend of mine said, "Oh, did you know that Vera means faith?" And I was like, no, I didn't know that. And she's like,
I
yeah.
didn't know
That meant
that.
truth, like veritas.
Yeah, like Verity. Like
So
you
it
have a
means-
Verity podcast.
I know.
It's
And
just so wild.
verity means truth, does mean truth. But in the like Eastern European countries, vera means faith.
Wow.
So
You got
that
it
was-
anyway.
I got it anyway. I just was like, the Lord is just over this, like encouraging in so many unique ways, and specifically through women, through Caitlin, through Mo, through the sweet woman who messaged me on Instagram with the dream, and through, multiple other people who spoke into our lives. And even this friend of mine who's like, well, Vera means faith. It just the women around us. It's just been amazing to witness their faithfulness, their prayers, and the way that God has blessed my girls, who are 10 and 8, through all of this, so that they could visibly see what God was doing. And I think that that's going to be something that they take with them into their faith in the future. At least I hope so.
Yeah. So a lot of people are going to listen to this and go, oh, well, what did you do different? What was the protocol? What
Yeah.
special juice did you get to drink that I want to get to drink?
Which essential oils were you diffusing, Phylicia?
Yeah, that's the question. That clary sage, it'll do it.
Oh, stop.
No, well, the truth is, I don't think I was even on Caitlin's protocol long enough to be like, oh, for sure, this is exactly what did it. I think though, I think it helped. But I think, I don't know. A part of me is like, yes, do seek help, because I think I was following your protocol. I was eating more dark greens and drinking lemon water, and I was exercising more, and I wasn't drinking alcohol or eating tons of sugar. Like, these were things that I was really working on, and I think that helped because I continued that through the first trimester. So I do think that God gave us physical bodies, and he gave us wisdom for those physical bodies. And so there's that is an element for sure, but it's also not a guarantee. And so I would just encourage anyone who's thinking that, like, there is no magic solution or pill, or like, conversely, to blame yourself. When I had my second miscarriage, I was convinced for a while that I had been walking too much, because I was doing this like half marathon walking training thing. And I was like, it's my fault. I walked too much. I did it. And if I hadn't done that, like, it wouldn't have happened. And I don't think that's the case. But I would just encourage anyone listening to just remember, like, my story is not the same as yours. I want to encourage you that God cares, and he may be speaking to you in unique ways. He might be trying to encourage you in the midst of pain in unique ways. He's hearing your prayers, even the most desperate ones. That also doesn't mean that there will be a quick answer. I did not expect this. I tried to be faithful in it. And I'm grateful for it. And I hope that it encourages you to keep hoping and believing in him first, not for a baby. Because his timing is very different than ours. And there wasn't any magic thing I did to see that happen.
Yeah. And in a way, it feels quick. Like, you have an appointment and 6 weeks later you're pregnant, but 4 years later you were pregnant. Right. And had loss. And, I think just as we are each unique individuals negotiating with a broken world and broken bodies and our own food preferences and financial abilities to pay for certain support or this or that, even our own bodies are different 4 years from now, and things change, but God is the same, and God has wisdom, and he can help you in ways that even doctors can't help you. Even dietitians like Sophia and I can't help you. He can and does give wisdom liberally to those who ask. So, I was, before we hit record, Phylicia asked me how my dad was, because in this whole year of unfolding. And I even told her this in an email. Like, I didn't reply back to her very quickly. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I literally got off our phone call and walked into another room, and my mom said they got home from my dad's thing. It was literally like we were talking, Phylicia, and I stood up and crossed the house and found out my dad had cancer.
Oh my
And
Lord.
just like life changed. But Phylicia was asking me how he's doing, which the answer is he's doing great. And I shared with her this verse that I felt like was his theme this past year. It's in Psalms, and it says, he will not be afraid of bad news. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. And just as Phylicia said, like, her faith wasn't for a baby. My heart will be able to navigate the bad news because my heart is postured towards God. And I know that I'm going to lean into that and lean into trusting him despite the circumstance.
I think that verse is like a perfect summary for this whole episode, because I think that was what I struggled with the most during this miracle pregnancy, if you will, is I'm afraid of bad news. Like that was the struggle through that, was to not be afraid of bad news, to trust that if there is bad news, that God would carry us again the way he did before. And in our case, it was good news, right? You know, our baby lived. Olivera Hope is alive, and she's 3 months old today, and she's just the joy of our life. And my kids, whenever they come and hug her in the morning, they say, I just love our miracle baby. You know, they have it before their eyes.
Yeah.
But before this ever happened, they also learned so much, and I learned so much about the Lord through our losses, and learning to not be afraid of bad news, but to put our hope in him and in his character and in his love for us, instead of just in outcomes.
I can't tell you how many people have written us, Phylicia, and told us about the episode we referred to at the beginning, My Faith is Not for a Baby, how that episode really changed their focus and their heart and really encouraged them and helped them in this infertility season that they're walking. I haven't actually gone to look, but I'm sure it's probably one of the more listened to episodes, just by remark on how many people have just individually written and said it was so impactful for them. So I'm so thankful for that, for you being willing to come on and come back on and share your joy with us. And I think about what you just shared about how that was the struggle in your pregnancy, that you were afraid of bad news. And reflecting on, I thought I walked too much and that was the problem. Everybody is searching for that one answer. Why isn't it working, and what can I do differently? And it almost appears to me from the outside looking in your case, there was like the loss and then the pursuit of fertility medicine, and then a decision to like, we just got to stop. This isn't the next right step. We just need to rest in him almost. You didn't take the pregnancy test. You weren't tracking your ovulation. And in that rest was when it worked again.
Yeah. Which is, it's almost annoying, because, it's what people say to you. Well, when you stop trying, then it'll happen. And it's like, well, thanks so much for that. That's not helpful. But I think it can't be because somebody told you to. It has to just be your own heart posture with the Lord. And it's not like, oh, God's just waiting until you get restful enough. And because I did this when I was a single person, I was like, if I just trust God enough, then he'll bring me a guy, and
Lord, the amount of time wasted on that problem here with this one.
It's God is he's interested in the bigger picture, which is what you're
Wasted more energy
describing.
on that than the South Beach diet, I'll tell you.
I just think if we would just relax into his provision and trust his heart. It all comes back to trusting, having faith in his heart and in his time and in what he's doing, the bigger picture of what he's doing that we can't see. And it's okay to be upset while that's happening. At the same time, though, I don't think if we want to be at all happy and not miserable during these seasons of trial or waiting, we have to seek his heart, because I don't want to be miserable all the time when I'm going through really, really hard things, and I know I will go through them again. And that means that I need to have my perspective shifted to see his heart and not just be trying to coerce outcomes, and just learn what I'm going to learn through it and rest in his affection.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me again, Sophia Pivia, registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in women's health, fertility, and optimal progesterone production. And I'm interrupting an episode of my own podcast to tell you about my online course called Ovulation Unlocked. So if you've been listening to our podcast episodes, you've probably heard a lot of things about basal body temperature, cervical mucus, cervical position, and tracking your fertility. Well, I have designed a 90-minute self-paced online course, which I titled Ovulation Unlocked, that puts all of that together and teaches you how to be the expert on your own fertility from home. This course is designed to put you in the driver's seat of your own fertility, not only so you can know what's going on with your body on any given day, but so that if you need medical help, you can show up to the appointment informed and ready to communicate. Too frequently, us women show up to our doctor's appointments and just say something like, I want to have a baby. And the doctor looks at you and says, good for you. Stop using birth control, start taking a prenatal, come back in a year if you're not pregnant. And that's all we get. However, Ovulation Unlocked puts you in the driver's seat, puts you in control of your fertility to where if you need help, you can show up to that appointment informed and ready to communicate your needs. So if you want to become the expert on your own body and your own fertility, head on over to my Instagram bio and tap the Ovulation Unlocked link today.
Well, we're so thankful for you and thankful for your ministry. Will you tell people, if they're listening to this, how they can kind of access that? Like, what does your ministry provide? What can they check out? Where can they do all that?
Yeah. Well, my ministry is mainly focused on theology. So a lot of what I do is Bible studies, theology books. But if you want to read more about our specific miscarriage and loss and fertility journey, I have saved a lot of those posts on Substack under a specific category. I have a lot of them on my Instagram, which is just my name, Phylicia Masonheimer. And I mention it in our email newsletter as well. And then we've also recorded a podcast episode on my podcast of the entire story, like from beginning to end, of what that looked like and what the full testimony, if you want that in one place. So there are places you can go if you are only interested in our like personal story, or if you're interested in more broader theology. We have both available, and you can find it through my Instagram and my emails.
And what's the website for the business?
It's my name, PhyliciaMasonheimer.com.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Phylicia. Truly, this is really going to minister to so many people that are really not supported in this one very specific, important way.
Thank you, Sophia. I hope so.
I know so. And already, because so many of our listeners, I think, feel like they're on a razor's edge, even when they do get pregnant. It's like when Galadriel looks into the mirror and tells Frodo, your journey is on a razor's edge, stray but a little, and the fellowship will fail and everyone will die. And the fate of Middle Earth will fall to Sauron. Anyway, You know
I
what
love
I'm
a
talking
good Lord
about,
of the Rings
guys.
reference.
Come on. Yeah, Phylicia theologian. She knows all about the Mirror of
She was
Galadriel.
classically educated. She's a Tolkien.
Yes.
Well,
okay.
that's a nice way to
Again,
put it.
the
I'm a
female
nerd is what you're
elf
trying to say.
is the prophet. So, okay. What I mean is the listener probably feels like their fertility journey is on that razor's edge. And if they walk a little too much, forget the supplement one time, if they don't go to bed early enough, if they hug that lady wearing that perfume for too long at church, like that, this is going to end it for them. That they have to be absolutely perfect in order to get the pregnancy, keep the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And may this show you that our God is not tallying your score,
Yeah.
and that it's not your perfect behavior is not required for new life.
That's a word right there.
Okay. Yeah, girls. Yeah, girl is
gosh,
the
I have
segment where we
so
celebrate
many.
you.
I could pop off on you gals right now with some
You go
girls.
first. Give us a yeah,
Okay,
girl.
first of all, what a wonderful episode to listen to, not being afraid of bad news. My anatomy scan for the baby that I have in my womb right now is tomorrow. And I found myself just not wanting to go because I'm like, what are you going to tell me? What are you possibly going to say to me? Like, just had so many people have had anatomy scans that go every way but good. And then the baby's born most of the time perfectly healthy, or sometimes needing minor care that then was turned into this whole big hullabaloo their whole pregnancy. And so this was such a great episode. And my husband and I have decided, listeners, that we are going to not know the gender until birth, but one person will, and that is Miss Caitlin here. So
Oh
we're
my
going to
gosh.
send her the envelope. Merry Christmas, Caitlin. / happy birthday or whatever. This has nothing to do with us celebrating you in any way, but more just wanting you to hold this for us.
And pray over baby with a gender specific pronoun, which is really important in the world right now.
Yes. And just to know, and just to, I don't know that I know she'll hold it for me, and that I can be like, and here's what I think if it's a girl, and then if it's a boy, and that she'll just listen to me and go,
I'm such a good lockbox. You don't even know.
So that's really exciting. Another really exciting thing also, I just got back from a physical therapy session. I've been seeing a physical therapist really ever since my ectopic pregnancy, but even before that, my endo surgery, I started seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist to help work through that scarring and all of the problems, but it only really became a problem once I had the ectopic. Alas. So this gal is just so gentle and sweet and wonderful, and I just love her. And I see her every week. And she mentioned today, just the conversation, just when I was like, I wish you could be at this birth with me. And she was like, I would be honored. I would love to. And so she offered to come to my birth. And she does so much like nervous system work, like help you feel peaceful, and like she, like, so much of what we do is her like working on my nervous system, because I feel so worried about this birth and I feel so nervous about labor. And she offered to just be my support person, not a doula, not a therapist, just coming as like a friend to support me. I know. So we're praying about this. I was like, okay, Ellen, don't commit yourself to this like right in this moment. Think about what this is going to mean for your life, because you're going to potentially have to take time off for this. You're going to potentially have to leave in the middle of your shift. You're going to potentially have to be up all night at an inconvenient time. You know, even like birth workers, they have to be like, oh, I'm going to this party. You know, I probably shouldn't have a glass of champagne because I have a mom that could need me to drive across town and then be up all night at any point. And So we talked about that and what would be worth her while and all these things, but she's never been to a birth, and she's a pelvic floor physical therapist, works with pregnant and postpartum women day in and day out. So very exciting and such a blessing to me, because I have been afraid of this birth so much. And gosh, Phylicia, like what you said, because so much of me trying to outrun this fear is like in all my preparations, right? I'll do the home birth and I'll have this and I'll have that. And, if I know that I have like the postpartum meal train, then I'll be all right. And I have the nipple shield ready for this. And like, you think in all of your preparation, or in even all of your hiring of people, you're going to be safe. And in birth, it just can't be like that. You could hire everybody in the world, and you are the only one that can push that baby out.
Right.
And so you're the only one who can labor. You're the only one who can birth this baby. Nobody can do it but you. And so my sister brought this up to me and was like, you need to really ask God to help you work better with your own hands. Stop trying to find help all the time, and, work with what you have. And so I was like, wow, that's actually really smart, because I am always trying to like outsource my everything to everyone. But anyway, so I've been working on that. And then out of the blue, a help that seems so ideal is just presented to me. So I'm really excited at the prospect of this gal potentially attending my birth.
That's amazing.
A pelvic floor physical therapist at your birth. Guys, what could be better?
That is amazing. I love that. That's
just
fantastic.
strong hands that understand physiology, extra squeezing.
Yeah. Yes, and she does like things to like your ears and your neck to like help like bring that panic down. And panic is a huge problem for me in birth, or at least just, I don't want to speak that over myself, but historically that has been an issue for me. And so it's really cool to have somebody who's really good at helping you not, like do things to like your feet and your ears and things like that to help you like come out of that physiologic panic that you just can't seem to shake. And that has been a problem for me in labor. So exciting things for Sophia. 2 very happy things happening. So
I love that.
Yay.
Yeah, girl. So fun.
Yeah, girl to me.
Yeah, girl to you. Phylicia, do you have anything you want to celebrate that we can say yeah, girl to?
Oh man. Well, other than the baby herself, because she's such a sweetie. Well, so I'm like you, Sophia. I like look for people who are experts in their field, and I'm like, you can tell me what to do.
You're coming home with me.
Yeah, faster than I could ever research this out. But I have a friend who runs a like sleep support business, like, or she like, it's not sleep training, because I don't like that phrase, because that gives vibes of like cry it out. That's not what she does.
Or like sleep shaping.
Yeah, like sleep rhythms, like working with the age of the child and their specific needs, and looking at like the science of like what kind of breast milk they get at what times, because it adapts, and like anyway, she looks at all that and she comes up with like a sleep plan for you, customized to your baby. So she did that with me for the first, like, she starts right away, and the first month it's like nothing except make sure that their circadian rhythm is correct, like get them in the
sunlight in the day, dark in the night.
Don't let them mix up their days and nights. And so I followed that, and that went really well. But thanks to her, Vera wakes only once a night.
Wow.
And has for like the last probably 6 weeks, 4 weeks maybe. And I'm like, I can deal with once a night. Like I can do that forever. Like that doesn't bother me a bit.
Yeah, who doesn't wake once a night, please?
Right? Yeah, of course. And she eats really well, because she really struggled with that the first month. She was supplemented because she was losing weight and stuff. And so she's fully like, she's nursing well, and she's waking once a night to eat. And I get a nice stretch at the beginning of the night. That is like, and it started to come together as I went back to work. So I'm like, praise the Lord. Thank you, Monica. Yes. She has, it's called Maldonado Casa is what the name of her sleep coaching business is. And she works with like adults and like teens and babies and all the things. And so I've been very, very grateful, because it's been a challenge, like having 4 children now and trying to work and stuff. So
Work and stuff.
Huge
Dot,
blessing.
dot,
Dot.
homeschool and
yes.
You know, at 3 months postpartum work, I was like, what? is
I
that?
know. I came back after two
I will
months.
never work again.
But I think it made it way easier that she was already like, you know, she has a general
Sleeping.
rhythm and
Amen.
and daytime naps, those are something right now, but that's okay. It'll work its way out eventually.
Daytime naps, I could take or leave. I mean, they're great to have. But yeah, I was like that with my kids too. I'm like, look, daytime is eat time and awake time. Nighttime is sleep time. So if you think you're going to take a 4-hour nap in the day, you got something else coming, sister. I'm waking your ass up and it's time to eat.
I know, right?
That. You want to sleep for 4 hours in the night? I am here for it. But in the day, no. Wakey, eggs and bakey. Here we go. Time to eat. Yeah, that's like naps in the day.
I'm like, I can wear you in a carrier. You can
night,
sleep. You can sleep on me. You can sleep in any kind of carrier. I'll sit and hold you while I read or something. I don't care what I have to do for you to sleep in the day, but in the night, just please do not do the every hour business.
I tell that to my kids now because I'm like, close your eyes, close your mouth, and go to sleep. Kids don't be like, oh,
their eyes are closed, mouths are still working. Oh my gosh! So yes, that's my girl. I am getting at least a 6-hour stretch on the front end of the night.
That's amazing.
Caitlin, do you remember your first 6-hour stretch after Bonnie was born? And you were like, 6 hours of sleep before this was like,
nothing.
Pour me a coffee. And you're like, I have cleaned the kitchen. I have meal prepped. I've showered. You're like, I got 6 hours of sleep last night. I feel like I'm running on jet fuel here today. I'm ready to roll.
I will tell you, women get better after they have children. They're more productive. They're more capable. And that doesn't mean, listener, that you're not. This cultural idea that women aren't improved in this state is fallacy. It's
totally
absolutely. We're so good at knowing what's actually important. Once we've had kids, we're not gonna waste your time on a meeting with something that could be an email. That's not gonna happen once kids have come into the picture.
You're better at prioritizing, picking and choosing, for sure.
All right, well, there's our episode. Thank you so much, Phylicia. As always, we love and adore you. Thank you so much, listener, for spending this time with us. We hope that this not only ministered to your heart, but really encouraged you, that you walk away from this feeling lighter. And we encourage you that if you do feel lighter or feel some type of way, leave a comment, rate, review, subscribe, share. Because there are people right now believing something crazy, that God took their baby because they were walking too much or something like that, and they need to hear the truth. So share this so that the women who need it can find it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.